He smirked like he'd already won, like the whole game had been played and I'd just shown up to collect my participation trophy. Bryce Sullivan was the kind of man who'd never built anything in his life, just wandered into a kingdom someone else carved out of bedrock and started redecorating. And now he was sitting in my chair, in my building, sipping cold brew from a branded tumbler while my machinery hummed beneath his Italian loafers. "Let's not drag this out," Bryce said, voice syrupy with fake sympathy. "You've been great, a real legacy asset, but this company's moving forward. And unfortunately, well, you're not part of that vision anymore. I'm Wade Patterson, 49 years old, and I built this place from nothing, but he didn't know that yet." It took every ounce of composure not to laugh or cry. I didn't do either. I just looked at the coffee ring his cup was leaving on the only mahogany table I'd ever splurged on in my entire life and thought, he doesn't even know what he's stepping on. Hey, quick note before we go deeper. If this kind of story pulls you in, tap subscribe and hit the like button. 97% of people never do, and honestly, it helps more than you'd think. Keeps this kind of truth coming to light. Anyway, back to Bryce's smirk. He wasn't wrong, technically. Nobody at Precision Manufacturing Solutions knew the full extent of what I was. Publicly, I was VP of Operations. A solid title for a solid job that involved production schedules, quality control, equipment maintenance, and the kind of critical oversight nobody notices unless it fails. But 18 years ago, I built the first production line of PMS out of nothing but sleepless nights and machinery pieced together between rent payments. Started in a 2,000 square foot garage with a $50,000 loan and a dream of making medical equipment right here in America, and I never let go. When the growth capital came, I moved quiet, registered Ridgepoint Holdings in Delaware, layered it behind a private trust. Made sure when the real equity dance started, the spotlight never hit me. I let the brand get flashy. Let the board bring in venture funds and golf buddies. Let them rename departments, hire consultants like they were collecting trading cards, and push efficiency metrics they didn't understand. But me, I tracked everything. Every cap table update, every voting clause, every sneaky convertible note, every late-night equity shuffle. I had 67% ownership, sitting in a trust structure that not even our general counsel could untangle without a subpoena and a full pot of black coffee. And the only clause that mattered, Section 12.4b-, any attempt to remove a founding stakeholder with more than 20% equity required unanimous board approval, excluding the subject. Bryce hadn't read it, or worse, he thought VP of Operations was a line item on a payroll spreadsheet he could delete like a failed product launch. I never took vacations, never spoke at conferences. I let them forget me, let them think the production lines ran themselves, that the ISO certifications auto-renewed like magazine subscriptions. And now here was Bryce, CEO's golden nephew, flown in from some failed consulting firm in LA, trying to slap a fresh coat of paint on a system he couldn't even operate without texting me for the master passwords. He'd renamed half our departments in his first month, called our quality assurance team Excellence Engineers, introduced a Slack bot that posted inspirational quotes from Jack Welch, which was hilarious considering Bryce hadn't shipped a damn thing but blame since he got here. The production floor guys started calling it the fortune cookie robot behind his back. Our head machinist, Tommy Rodriguez, had been with us for 12 years, came up through our apprenticeship program, learned every piece of equipment by touch, could diagnose a bearing failure by sound alone. The kind of craftsman you don't replace, you treasure. Tommy pulled me aside after Bryce's first all-hands meeting and said, "Boss, what's this kid talking about? He wants to replace our Mazak with some automated cell that nobody's trained on." But I didn't argue with Bryce's innovations. I didn't point to the production metrics he broke. Didn't correct him when he announced our migration to a platform we'd already quietly tested and rejected last quarter. Didn't flinch when he called me a manufacturing dinosaur in front of the whole leadership team. I just watched and waited, because some of us don't need revenge speeches. Some of us already own the battlefield. It started with a color palette. Bryce strolled into a Monday operations meeting wearing a mock turtleneck and sneakers that cost more than my first lathe, holding a laminated presentation like he'd just redesigned the Pentagon. "We're shedding dead weight," he declared, clicking through slides of corporate clip art and buzzwords. New logo, new processes, new blood. By dead weight, he meant the legacy systems, the experienced operators, the quality standards that had kept us FDA compliant for 15 straight years. Me, The consultants he brought in, two 20-somethings in Patagonia vests who used synergy as a verb and had probably never seen the inside of a machine shop, nodded like dashboard bobbleheads at every word he said. He renamed our machine shop to The Forge, rebranded our apprenticeship program as Talent Acceleration, changed our quality control department to Output Optimization, which sounded like a video game designed by people who'd never held a micrometer. And then he turned to me and said, "Let's update your title. Senior Manufacturing Advisor has a nice ring to it, doesn't it?" I smiled because I knew what senior meant to men like Bryce. It meant old, outdated, replaceable, something you take a picture of before gutting the foundation. He didn't see the calculation in my eyes, didn't realize he was cutting through the branch he was perched on. He was too busy planning his LinkedIn announcement. The next day, I noticed my access credentials had changed. Not revoked, that would have triggered an alert to our compliance team. Just quietly shifted. Permissions altered. Systems I'd built, core production protocols, equipment override codes started showing me 403 errors. I called Shane Wells from engineering. Did someone change the system permissions? He sounded nervous, like he'd been expecting this call. Bryce said to streamline admin access. Something about zero trust environments. I figured you were in the loop. I wasn't. And that was the moment the restructuring became a threat. Shane had been our lead systems engineer for 6 years. Good kid, sharp mind, understood both the technical side and the human side of manufacturing. He'd started as an intern, worked his way up through every department, the kind of employee you build a company around, not the kind you streamline away. Wade, Shane continued, his voice dropping lower. He's also talking about moving most of our production offshore. Says we can cut costs by 60% and boost margins. The Mexico facility is already being scouted. My blood went cold. Not for me, for the 127 production workers who'd been with us for an average of 8 years each. For Tommy Rodriguez, who'd trained half our operators and could run a tolerance check blindfolded. For Linda Foster in quality control, who could spot a 0.001-inch deviation by touch alone and had caught defects that could have killed patients. For Marcus Wright, our maintenance supervisor who kept our 20-year-old CNCs running like Swiss watches, because he understood every bearing, every servo, every line of G-code. These weren't numbers on a spreadsheet, these were craftsmen, these were neighbors. These were the people who made our medical devices with the precision that kept patients alive. Bryce hadn't just overstepped, he'd stepped into the kill zone with no armor, because the systems he was touching. I hadn't just designed them, I'd buried safeguards in the architecture, audit trails for regulators, ownership breadcrumbs no junior analyst could interpret without a damn roadmap. And then it clicked. They were moving to fire me quietly. No public spectacle, just fade me out. Reassign my duties, lock me out of my own work, clear the way for the Mexico transition without any legacy resistance. I opened the encrypted drive I hadn't touched in 3 years, pulled up the PMS shareholder agreement, scrolled to section 12.4b. There it was in plain black text. Any structural dismissal of a founding partner with 20% equity requires unanimous board consent, excluding the subject. I had 67%. They never read the full version. Hell, they never even requested an updated cap table from Ridgepoint Holdings. And that right there was their fatal mistake. They assumed I was small. They assumed silence meant surrender. They assumed wrong. Bryce thought he was launching some grand transformation, a revolution. He didn't know he was chiseling his own tombstone, and I wasn't going to stop him, not yet. 2 weeks later came the announcement that made every worker on the floor stop what they were doing. The kind of silence that falls over a production facility when the machines keep running but all the human sounds just stop. We're relocating core manufacturing to our new facility in Juarez. Bryce announced during the all-hands meeting, standing up there in his $300 sneakers like he was unveiling the iPhone. It's not personal. It's about competitive positioning in the global marketplace. Competitive positioning. That's what he called shipping 127 American jobs to Mexico, so he could boost quarterly margins and impress his Wharton classmates. I watched the faces in that room. Tommy Rodriguez, our head machinist, who'd worked overtime every weekend for 3 months to meet a critical cardiac device deadline. Linda Foster, who'd caught a material defect that would have resulted in a Class I recall and probably lawsuits. Marcus Wright, who jury-rigged our oldest lathe to keep running when the manufacturer said replacement parts were discontinued. These people had families. Kids in local schools, mortgages on houses 3 miles from the plant. They weren't just losing jobs, they were watching their entire community get exported for a line item improvement. Sarah Chen, one of our assembly technicians, raised her hand. She'd been with us for 5 years, worked her way up from entry level, was studying for her engineering degree at night. What about retraining? What about positions at other facilities? Bryce's smile was practiced, empty. We'll provide comprehensive transition support and severance packages competitive with industry standards. Translation: a few weeks of pay and a pat on the head while their skills got shipped to workers making $3 an hour. But I noticed something else in that room. The way Tommy caught my eye from across the crowd, the slight nod from Linda, the questioning look from Marcus. These people knew me. They'd worked with me for years, had seen me on the floor at 2 a.m. troubleshooting a critical production issue, had watched me train new operators with the same patience I'd want someone to show my own kid. They were looking for a signal, some indication that this wasn't the end of the story. I gave them the slightest nod back. Not a promise, not a guarantee. Just acknowledgement that I'd heard what they hadn't said out loud. Are you going to let this happen? That afternoon, I made a phone call I should have made years ago. Diana Foster Law Group, she answered, crisp as ever. No hello, no small talk, just business. It's time, I said. My voice sounded like someone else's. Quiet, steady, but laced with the kind of steel that only forges under pressure. There was a pause on the other end, long enough to hear her think. You want me to trigger the ownership disclosure? Yes. Effective immediately, you understand what this sets off. I built the fuse, I replied. Light it. She didn't say another word, just hung up. That's how it began. Deanna had been my attorney since the early days, back when PMS was just blueprints and bank loan applications. She'd structured the Ridgepoint Holdings setup, advised me through every funding round, and helped me maintain my controlling position while staying invisible to everyone who thought they were running the show. She understood the game better than anyone because she'd written the playbook. At 3:47 p.m., a certified digital notice was sent to PMS's legal inbox. Deanna, ever the professional, also had a hard copy delivered by courier. Signature required. No room for claims of oversight or spam filters. The subject line was surgical. Notice of majority interest holder action. Section 12.4b. The language inside was colder than machined steel. It referenced my controlling position via Ridgepoint Holdings, cited the procedural breach regarding workforce restructuring without proper stakeholder consent, and outlined the automatic freeze on any board actions enacted without required vote protocol. It wasn't a protest letter, it was a legal precision instrument. Bryce's Mexico move had just been declared invalid. Worse, his current appointment now required full board reconfirmation, and under the bylaws, guess who had the controlling vote? I didn't storm in, didn't shout. I simply inserted a lever into the structure they thought they owned and applied the torque specifications required to shift the load. And just like that, the power transferred. It must have hit the legal team like a dropped wrench on concrete. I imagine our general counsel, Patricia Hawkins, staring at the filing, rereading it 3 times, then realizing the name behind the LLC in the footnotes. They had no idea Ridgepoint still held anything. They assumed I'd cashed out after Series B like everyone else. That's what Bryce's uncle, our brilliant CEO Richard Sullivan, had told the board anyway. That I was a nice manufacturing story. A historical footnote who'd taken his money and faded into middle management. What they never saw was the chain of holding companies, the layered trusts, the limited partnerships woven through structures in 3 states. They thought I was an employee. I was the controlling shareholder. Within 2 hours of the filing, I got a text from an unlisted number. We need to talk ASAP. I didn't respond, not yet. This wasn't panic time. It was pressure time. I wanted Bryce to feel it slowly, like metal fatigue building in an overloaded beam. Not a sudden fracture, but the growing stress of realizing you've exceeded the material limits, and I hadn't even applied full torque yet. By Thursday morning, the panic was officially company-wide. Legal pulled in outside counsel from Morrison, Lee and Associates, the kind of firm you call when your routine corporate governance turns into a 5-alarm fire. Auditors got emergency calls at dawn. A thread on the executive Slack channel started pinging like an overheating proximity sensor. The subject: Ridgepoint Holdings urgent ownership verification. It took them less than 3 hours to realize they'd miscalculated the load capacity. Ridgepoint Holdings wasn't just some passive investment fund like they'd assumed. It wasn't owned by a random venture capital firm or silent investor from New York or California. It was me. And that quiet holding structure ran cold and deep until they hit the trust documents. Then it got crystal clear, because behind that trust sat the original PMS incorporation papers, dated, notarized, and still legally binding. Every production line, every quality protocol, every compliance certification Bryce had been trying to rebrand as innovation had my signature at the foundation level. The original equipment financing, the facility lease, the FDA registrations, all traced back to Ridgepoint Holdings, which traced back to the Patterson Family Trust, which traced back to me. The 67% equity stake had never moved, not once. The documents had all been updated annually, maintained, and recertified through Diana's firm. Not a single share had transferred without my signature. But nobody thought to verify because Richard Sullivan, the camera-ready CEO, had assumed I'd diluted out during growth funding. I let him believe it. Even sent him a holiday card that year, with a thanks for the opportunity note and a bottle of bourbon I knew he was allergic to. The problem wasn't their ignorance, it was their confidence in it. When the documents landed in their system, there was a moment of complete operational paralysis. Nobody wanted to say it out loud, but every executive in that thread knew what had happened. They didn't restructure a department. They attempted to eliminate a founder, and now that founder was calling an emergency board meeting. Shane Wells, still loyal after all these years, forwarded me a screenshot from the internal legal chat. No names, but the messages were time-stamped and frantic. Why didn't we audit the ownership structure during due diligence? Was this reviewed during the last compliance cycle? He just signed the termination papers. Why is he calling a board vote? How did we miss a 67% stakeholder? Because the vote wasn't about me, it was about Bryce. About the procedural breach, about the reckless governance, about putting the company's future in the hands of a man who couldn't read a cap table, let alone manage a manufacturing operation that kept cardiac patients alive. They were scrambling, talking about damage control, maybe offering me a consulting transition, floating some retention equity, perhaps giving me an honorary chairman title. Internal emails were flying back and forth between executives, trying to figure out how to walk this back without admitting they'd never properly reviewed their own ownership structure. I didn't respond to any of it. I just monitored the communications silently as my legal proxies activated in the system one by one, confirming board-level access that had been dormant for years but never expired. They were trying to reverse course, but you can't reverse a certified filing. You can't delete documentation. You can't rewrite history. And Bryce, he was still showing up to work like nothing had changed. Still walking the factory floor in his expensive sneakers. Still hosting his little efficiency meetings and spouting off about lean manufacturing principles he'd learned from YouTube videos. Still smirking at the workers he was about to displace. But not for long. The conference room smelled like leather and nervous sweat. PMS's boardroom had always been more showroom than workspace. Polished walnut table, 8 ergonomic chairs nobody ever adjusted, and a presentation screen that hadn't seen actual manufacturing data since Bryce arrived. The walls were lined with framed certifications: Quality Excellence Award, Manufacturing Safety Leader, Employee Choice Workplace, all earned before Bryce's efficiency improvements. The others were dialed in 6 little squares blinking on the main screen. Corporate faces trying to look neutral while calculating political positions. Richard Sullivan, Bryce's uncle, looked like he'd aged 5 years since yesterday. Patricia Hawkins from legal had that 1,000-yard stare of someone who'd spent the night reviewing documents that should have been reviewed years ago. Bryce was the only one who wasn't punctual. I sat at my usual spot, not the head. I figured if I was going to reclaim my company, I might as well do it from where I'd always operated, the production side. At 10:12, the door opened. Bryce walked in with that entitled swagger, expecting some kind of settlement discussion. Maybe a gentle reprimand or a let's find common ground conversation with light legal seasoning. Then he saw me sitting there with my laptop open and realized this wasn't a negotiation. His body language shifted like a machine hitting an unexpected obstruction. For a moment, he stopped completely, maybe hoping if he didn't move forward, the situation would reset to yesterday's parameters. It didn't. I waited until he sat directly across from me, adjusting his collar like a man about to be measured for something uncomfortable. Then I pulled out the signed termination letter and placed it flat on the table. Invalid documentation, I said, holding it between 2 fingers like a rejected inspection report. Executed without proper stakeholder consent. As such, I remain VP of Operations. He opened his mouth. I cut him off with a click of my trackpad. The presentation screen activated. One slide, black text. Centered. Motion to revoke COO appointment. Procedural violation. Bryce squinted like he couldn't process the words. Maybe he couldn't. The term procedural violation seemed to hit him like technical specifications, written in a language he'd never learned. I looked to the screen. Board members, you've received the documentation packet. The bylaws are included. The compliance breach is detailed in Exhibit A. Workforce impact analysis in Exhibit B. Nobody spoke. Richard Sullivan's face had gone completely white. Patricia was frantically scrolling through something on her tablet, probably the ownership documents she should have reviewed months ago. I let the silence run like a quality check cycle, long enough to measure the true dimensions of the situation. 4 minutes of quiet tension, broken only by the distant hum of our production floor and Bryce's increasingly shallow breathing. He turned to his uncle's image on the screen, but Richard was stone-faced, not even a blink of support. The CEO knew exactly what he was looking at. A 67% stakeholder he'd forgotten existed, holding the power to remove his nephew with a single vote. Let's vote, I said. One by one, the faces on screen responded, yes. No one risked dissent when the majority owner was sitting right there with documentation that proved they'd all been operating under false assumptions about who actually controlled the company. Bryce's hands gripped the table edge like he was trying to stop a conveyor belt with his bare fingers. Motion carried, I said, and closed the laptop. He didn't move, didn't speak, didn't even breathe for several seconds. Then he stood slowly, stiffly, like a machine that just realized it had been operating outside safe parameters and was about to shut down. Nobody told him to wait, and nobody looked at him as he walked toward the door except me. I watched his back the entire way, because when you reclaim your company, you don't look away from the moment your mistake leaves the building. You document it. I wasn't here to gloat. I was here to restore proper operational parameters. He was waiting by the elevators like he'd been running calculations since the vote ended. I didn't rush. I let the boardroom door close behind me, slow and final, before I turned the corner and saw him standing there. Bryce, arms folded, jaw set, trying to project control over a situation that had already exceeded his design specifications. "You're serious about this," he said, voice tight. "You're not even active leadership. You haven't contributed strategy in years. This is just ego." I didn't respond immediately, just pulled out my phone, accessed my secure files, and opened a document that had been sitting in draft status since the day he first announced streamlining operations. I read it aloud, clear and measured, like reciting technical specifications. Clause 15C. Founding stakeholders may appoint interim leadership pending full operational review. He blinked. I reached into my briefcase and handed him a manila folder, clean, labeled, time-stamped. He didn't take it, so I held it where he couldn't avoid seeing the contents. Interim COO appointment documentation, signed and notarized. Compliance review directive with immediate implementation requirements. Badge deactivation timestamp, 11:17 a.m., synchronized with building security protocols. I didn't need to explain the sequence. He was an MBA, he understood process flows. "You'll need to transfer your access credentials," I said. My tone stayed level like discussing routine maintenance schedules. Device returns, system clearances, project handoffs. All standard transition procedures. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Not argument, not protest, just silence stretching between us like a tolerance measurement that couldn't find its specification. That's when he noticed them. Security. 2 men in navy PMS polo shirts, standing a respectful distance behind him. Professional expressions, tablets in hand, one already scrolling through an equipment return checklist. They weren't here to escort him out. They were here to document the transfer according to company protocol. "Are you actually doing this?" he muttered, eyes widening. "You're having me processed out like equipment?" I met his gaze directly. "I don't operate on ego, Bryce. I operate on specifications. You violated them repeatedly." "This isn't personal preference. It's quality control." For a moment, he looked like he might throw something. Not at me, he didn't have that kind of backbone, but at the situation, the building, the reality he'd never had to face before. Then he finally took the folder. Didn't open it. Didn't say another word. He walked to the elevator with security maintaining respectful distance, badge already deactivated, systems already clearing his access logs. The doors closed with a quiet chime, and that was the end of Bryce Sullivan's efficiency improvements. 3 months later, I was back in the machine shop at 6 a.m., checking the overnight production run with Tommy Rodriguez. The Juarez facility plan had been scrapped. All 127 jobs stayed in America. The Mexico consultants had been terminated faster than Bryce could say competitive positioning. Morning, Wade, Tommy said, handing me a coffee. Tolerances look good on the cardiac valve batch, within 0.0001 across the board. I nodded, checking the measurements myself. Perfect specs, just like always. That's the thing about manufacturing. It doesn't run on smirks or buzzwords or efficiency theater. It runs on precision, experience, and the kind of craftsmanship you can't outsource to people who've never held a micrometer. Bryce learned that the hard way. But some lessons you only get to learn once. Sometimes the quietest person in the room owns the whole building. Never underestimate someone just because they don't make noise about their power. In business, like manufacturing, precision beats flash every time. The guy who built it from the ground up will always know which bolts to tighten when the whole thing starts falling apart.